You want to speak to that, or?
And Ms. Smith is here too. She's got, you've got a couple of pages in your packet. Becky, I'll let you, is there anything you want to pull out specifically about this, or just answering questions?
What was the question that Ms. Thompson had a moment ago that went on this?
I was just seeing where we stood from, or where we thought we were
Are
standing.
we getting anywhere?
Are we getting anywhere?
Are we getting anywhere?
It's too early to tell for sure.
You really won't see a lot of change until next year. And we do, as I noted, anticipate that we will plan on flexing some capital projects at the end of this year to get us up to our 100.
And there'll be more budget information coming along as we prepare the open hearings on the budget. Any questions, any more comments on the budget amendment? All right, the Microsoft ESS agreement renewal.
Can I back up just 1 second?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. On the summer feeding program, how does that?
We've done well. We've not had the public participation that we expected, but so that's what we'll be finalizing that tomorrow.
I just had a comment from the community that they thought that the location would be better served if it was in a different area, like more residential area where people could actually walk to the, like Brownwood perhaps, or somewhere where the houses are in the place would feel.
One of the things Melba has talked about is even doing more delivery. You know, they've done some of that through the Boys and Girls Club, and
They actually picked up those ones.
but we've even talked about, I mean, we kind of joked about sort of like the little ice cream
Meals on
truck.
Wheels.
Yeah, I mean, so.
Got a little music going.
You can probably find that truck somewhere.
But that really would, I mean, I think we could serve more.
The only reason we had it at Collins is because Camp Collins was selling right there, and we had, almost 100 or more students there.
And did they utilize it? The students actually utilize the lunch?
We've got some students.
I think next year, people know about it, I think it'll grow every year.
And that's what's happened in other school systems. We were kind of late getting it approved and getting the information out this time, so we'll have more time to do that next year.
All right, we'll go back to the Microsoft ESS agreement renewal. Dr. Spivey, do you have anything to say about that?
You have a memo and then a copy of the agreement, and Tony LaRue is here to answer any questions you are, but this is regarding the purchase of the Microsoft ES license from Dell, and the total cost is a little over $19,000. Tony, you want to tell a little bit of the background about why this is needed?
Well, I mean, it's the basis for all of the software on all of the computers in the school system. It's the Windows operating system, as well as Microsoft Office, and a few other odds and ends things that are included in it. It also allows for the teachers and the students to purchase a home version if they want their individual copy. They can download that. They get a license, and it's $9 or $10, $9.50 or $9.75, something of that nature. And that's available for everyone in the school system, or they're again students and certified teachers. The server licenses are included in that basically, but the servers that manage all of the iNow, all of the demographics programs, all of the Compass Learning, the curriculum product, I mean, everything that we do basically is licensed from this agreement. And it's well less than half of what Microsoft used to do to us in the licensing of it. it was about 5 years ago that they changed to the FE, what are the full-time FTEs? They changed it to the full-time equivalents is the charge as opposed to per student or per computer. So they rearranged the licensing for school systems in general, and really gave us all a much better deal in that regard.
Was the HP bid actually 79,000 or is that a top?
The HP bid, obviously, their people don't know what they're doing. That's all I can take from that. This is at least, well, I know it's the 4th year that we've done this. It's been explained in great detail to me, and they ask for the information, and we complete the forms to their specifications and send to them. And you'll note that there's 4 companies in the state of Alabama that do that for Microsoft that are approved on the Alabama Joint Purchase. And one of them is significantly higher because they also added a per student charge. And all of the others collect the same information, the same discussions are had with those individuals as well. And their bids are in line with what I have received at the past 3 years. So HP didn't even respond last year. And then this year, when they did respond, you note the difference in their bid as opposed to any of the others.
All right, anyone have any questions regarding EES? It's written on your agenda as ESS, but I think it's actually EES.
Tony, did I hear you say that, what was it about the $9 that a student could, was it just what we're paying per student? Or?
No. That if they want it for home use,
That's what I thought.
they can purchase that copy for home use.
Wow, I didn't know that. And teachers too. Huh.
So I don't know what they've been doing in a college scenario for a while.
Do we advertise that to them?
I send an email out every year with all of that information in it.
To the
yes.
teachers?
To everyone in the school system, yes.
They might send something physically home with the parents. I mean, I don't know how many of them.
Well, let me confirm, I made that statement and I believe it to be true, but let me confirm that it is students
Well,
as
that'd be
well.
a
I know
great
it is for
thing
teachers.
if it's so.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I heard you right.
All right.
Can I ask about one more thing about action items? So this is not on your agenda. This actually came up today, but I want to ask for your blessing to possibly add an item to under action items for the board agenda. And I don't even, I guess I did. I'm sorry. At the last second, we made a little handout for you that may or may not help explain this, and Melva can answer any questions. But basically, and these numbers and calculations were not available to us until now, but to get us in compliance with some CNP standards, we need to make a recommendation for an adjustment in adult meal prices for our CNP program for the upcoming school year. And so it does need to be an action item on the board agenda. And if we were to wait, school starts the day of that next official board meeting. So we were hoping, and Melva, can you just briefly tell what this is about, if that's okay with you?
Go ahead.
To come up with the teacher price, we also have to consider the highest price that we pay for a student, which that hasn't changed for a couple of years. But we also have to include the value rate of our commodities and the reimbursement rate that we get for a paid student. Those last two that I mentioned changes every year, so that when we add all that together, we are not in compliance with the teacher price. So we need to increase that, and if we can increase that by a quarter, that would keep us in compliance for, I expect, 2 or 3 years.
So if I'm asking permission for us to add this recommendation to make that adjustment in the adult meal price to next week's board agenda. If not, we could do it on the August 6th agenda, but school will have started that day. So we were hoping to be able to take care of it so that she can go ahead and communicate the information to the cafeterias. And there was, which item were you waiting on that you didn't have to be able to make the
I'm waiting
calculation?
for the reimbursement rate, but the State Department is here today to audit the summer feeding program, and I asked him, and he said that those rates, it's not going to be a significant enough increase to go to balance out that quarter, so a quarter.
You talking about the USDA rates or the state?
It's the USDA reimbursement rate.
All right, I don't have a problem with you adding that to the agenda. Anyone have any questions or comments regarding the 25-cent increase? And this is only the adult meal,
Only the adult.
so parents out there don't have to worry, lunch is not going up. Correct.
Unless they come to eat. Unless they come to eat. But it's
This
teachers.
enterprise will remain the same, it's just the teachers.
All right. Roman numeral 3, discussion items, follow-up regarding the fundraiser questions. Dr. Spivey, you have follow-ups regarding the questions that were raised?
The last board meeting, and I just wanted to make sure everybody had the same information. I had to follow up to get the answer, but, and this, you know, something that had been a topic of conversation with the board, but it had to do with the banner fundraiser for the stadium. But if you'll remember, and I know you probably don't have it in front of you, but under the purpose for the activity in terms of how the money would be spent, on the form it was listed stadium upkeep, renovation, football equipment, and travel. So the football equipment and travel is fairly self-explanatory, but one of the board members asked what exactly is money spent for regarding stadium upkeep and renovation. So we had talked for a long time about it, but that was one question I had not asked. So I followed up on that, and I just wanted you to all have the same information. There are several different things. There's approximately $12,000 to $15,000 per year for the grass and the turf upkeep, so that's one item. An example of how this money has been spent, in the past there was like a sprinkler system installed for the practice field, so that was another item. There is a metal building on site, or going to try to put a metal building there's kind of a little bit of an eyesore, I guess, in terms of how the lawnmowers and things are kept right now. So to put something up that's a little more visibly appealing and to protect the equipment a little better. There's kind of a long-term goal of, not enough money right now to do this, but a long-term goal of taking the chain link fence down and replacing it with wrought iron. These last two things I mentioned are examples of things that, you know, we would work together on. They're not doing this independently. Obviously, they work with us, Mr. Ball and so forth. Perhaps some brick and outside of the stadium down the road. Long-term projects that they would like to work for, but the things that are more from year to year have to do with things like the grass and the turf upkeep and some minor repairs and improvements and things like that. But I just wanted to make sure everybody had that same information.
Any
And
questions?
is that going to be a 12-month upkeep or just an upkeep during football season, or?
For what?
For whatever they're planning to do with that money. I mean, it's since it's, you know, the grass, is that just a concern during football season?
Well, I'm not an expert on grass and turf management and upkeep. I know that there are things year-round that are involved in the maintenance and upkeep of the grass and the turf, but I couldn't speak with much. I would get way out of my, I would know enough just about to make me dangerous on that topic if I tried to guesstimate exactly what that looks like throughout the year. I would imagine the cost kind of fluctuates throughout the year in terms of how much money, but per year it's between $12,000 and $15,000. But throughout the year there's some cost involved, is my understanding. Would that be correct as far as you know?
And also the chain link to wrought iron. I mean, that would obviously be board approval.
Yeah. Well, it is something that
Because it would change
there would be a
the
lot of approval that would have to be made with each, like the little even metal building, and we'd have to look at codes and things like that. So those last three things I mentioned with the longer term projects are things that they wouldn't be off doing independently, whereas, you know, ongoing, keeping up the grass and the turf would be a little bit of a different situation. So, but yes, any changes to the structure involves our discussion.
Everything at the stadium is pretty much kept up by this money right here.
That's my understanding, as much as I know about it right now.
Including tracks, so not maintenance of that.
Of the actual physical track, and y'all know more about this than I do, but I know that's a fairly new structure, and to be quite honest, I don't know what's involved in the long-term upkeep of the actual track.
I think what's happened in the past is just been like a board. I mean, if it had to be fixed,
Yeah.
more volume money to fix it, kind of separate
And
problem.
I'm not sure what the cost of that would be, but I think it's fairly significant. You're talking about, I guess,
Yeah,
if you get to a place where it has to be resurfaced.
Yeah. Not resurfacing, but just maintenance.
Patching it.
Yeah, or maybe just
Seal.
something had to be done to clean it or something like that.
I was gonna say, I think when that surface was first put down, that they recommended that it be cleaned rigorously, every year or something. It was that particular surface.
You're looking at May.
Yeah, because I think I remember having it.
I don't know the timeline, but I think it does have a bi-yearly, at least needs to have something done to it. But I'm not sure about the money part. And I think it would make it live longer to do something to it.
Any other questions or comments on that side? Mr. Kenner, have you reviewed that?
No, sir.
Okay.
I have not seen it.
All right, then we'll get you a copy.
I wanted to, let me tell a little bit of kind of background about this, and Mr. Ball has a little more of the history of this and has done his best to explain all this to me, but I know when I first came into the system, there was an amount of money that he explained to me that we still owed in the neighborhood of $12,000-ish. And he had mentioned to me, we have not been, basically we haven't gotten a bill on that, but he was expecting it. And then,
Before you say,
yeah.
can you move on? Oh, for what?
and I'm gonna let him explain, but that has since been basically erased. That debt has been erased, but and I'm gonna let him explain the history of that. But as part of those conversations, there are some agreements about how that land is utilized, and it's my understanding that this includes part of Collins, where Collins Intermediate is, part of that campus, pretty much Trammell Stadium where that is, and then some of the land around the stadium. And so those are the three pieces of property that are included in this, but there are some agreements, and this, there were some agreements already in place, but this sort of itemizes some of that information, and the copy you have is a draft of this, and you may notice that there's nowhere in here for a signature from here. So there was some question even about, on our end, who would need to sign this, and is this something that I would sign? Is this something that the board president would sign? Is it something that has to be approved by the board? But it is, I wanted at least the school board to be aware of this, because it's about a 30-year, I guess, agreement. And so this is longer than, I doubt, I'm going to be superintendent here in 30 years, and some of you may or may not be still sitting at the board table in 30 years, but that kind of commitment for us to talk about how we need to approach this. But Tony, could you give just a little more history of what this is about?
Sure, as some of you will, can you hear me okay? As some of you may remember, when we started the whole Fieldhouse project, some of our three of us went to TVA in Gunnersville to get the blessing to get going with it, and we were given that blessing. And then at another point, TVA, I call it TVA Knoxville, the next level up, they questioned the terminology in that original agreement. Well, their interpretation was we had a 30-day license to be on that building. Anytime within 30 days, you can be vacated. A lot of people, and John, you've been around a long time, thought it was like a 99-year lease. It wasn't. No matter what, I say Mr. Kennedy doing something, so I don't know if I should.
Go ahead, finish.
Okay. So at any rate, you know, if you remember, we had a 12-week delay. It was a long delay for TVA to decide that they were going to grant us an easement to do that project. They granted that easement. This is just the formal paperwork where they said, here's your easement. And I got it 2 weeks ago, I think. The original thing was we would have to pay all costs involved in surveying, and legal work, and that type of thing, which could have been about $25,000. And we made and you had to pay $12,500 then, and we made that payment. Well, about a month ago, Jimmy Lemon, he called me and he said, well, I've got good news for you. It looks like there's not going to be any more charges for that. And I'm like, well, I kind of need to know more than it looks like. I mean, are there going to be more charges? And he indicated they were not. And that's when the official easement came down. And as I was reading it, I think they had us titled incorrectly as City of Scottsboro or something like that. Because they still had, where the tennis courts are, they had that on us. So I had to work on a map and show that we were not part of that. So they're changing the name of the board. I think it's changed to Scottsboro City Schools. And I asked them who is normally the signatory on that, and they said in most cases it's just one, excuse me, because I didn't know if I need to have all board members sign or one, and he said normally it's the superintendent. So that's why that's kind of a draft type situation. Oddly enough, I was just reading, we were talking about Google. Google has evidently exercised the same easement with TVA at Willows Creek, wherein that they can use, I think it's 350 acres, they can use it for as long as they want to use it, but they can never sell it. And it talks about an easement language in there. So.
Well, they never sell that, just like us down there, down home. It's not smaller kind of companies. Yeah, Mr. Kimmer, I'll give you my copy. Just glancing through it, that was one of the things that I circled here was uniform back in, that needs to be adjusted to name.
Well,
So give
and
a
this
little-
is, they're making that adjustment already. This is just a draft document of it.
Go ahead.
To give a little background, the Trammell Stadium was built in the late 60s. When the first elected school board hired me as their attorney, I contacted TVA on their behalf, this is 1983, to ask if we could expand the area behind the stadium for other sports purposes. They basically said not only no, but hell no, and besides, your stadium is on our property. The school board in the 1960s had actually sold bonds for that stadium, and unfortunately, whoever sold the bonds and whoever bought the bonds was sold a bill of goods. The property never vested in the city of Scottsboro because the city of Scottsboro never got the property under the agreement with TVA in the early 60s up to the 601 level. And it reverted back to TVA in 1971. So Trammell Stadium is on TVA property. It's always been on TVA property. And what we were able to negotiate at that point in time was a 30-day revocable license. Senator Heflin got involved on our behalf, and the commitment out of the TVA board, not in writing, but verbally, was we have no use of a football stadium in Scottsboro. The whole issue came back up apparently when the field house thing went to work. And I understand that Tony and the other folks did a good job of negotiating and getting things taken care of to their satisfaction. But I'll be happy to look at this and review it. It was a 30-day revocable license
It's still that way?
until this agreement is reached.
They went with the 601, is it now the 600 line?
Having not read this, I don't know.
Well,
what
not
this
for
is.
this, but for TVA in general, I think.
The 601 was the level of agreement in that agreement.
They marked both the 600 and the 601, and that ground is so low, and it really makes a difference. The 601 doesn't, the 600, makes a big difference there on the corner in that road, now they're
Well,
just right up on
the orchestra pits at 590.
Yeah, because it floods.
Yeah.
The actual line kind of comes through about where that black and gold room is at Trammell Stadium, it kind of meanders through that area there.
On the 601, on the 600, it cuts across about the middle of the field house.
Yeah.
It goes across the field.
Now, the crown of the
I've got
football
the maps.
field was very likely okay.
Yeah.
That was the only part.
It's not like showing them that big flood, too.
This is an electronic packet, right?
That's probably another note.
This is an electronic copy of this in your board packet.
Please send it to my office address. I don't get, somehow or another, my computer won't talk to the computer system here.
Will they reimburse the $12,000 that we've already given them? Or is that-
Well,
That seems
I'm thinking I
logical.
saved us 12,000,
Right.
and I'm wanting 15 back.
For rent. For rent. We don't even own it.
I would like to clarify one thing. We did not proceed with that project to TVA. They gave us a letter of release to proceed with construction. I think Mr. Freeman probably remembers that.
Yes.
I think this easement is kind of the formality to end all of it.
And this is a very unusual situation, so I would, some guidance about who needs to sign such a document like this.
Well, the first thing is the board would have to approve it.
I think the board would have
I
to
felt that way too.
authorize, the board would have to approve and authorize the superintendent to sign on behalf of the board.
You would sign as the chief executive after the board's decision.
Well, so the reason I put this as a discussion item rather than an action item is we don't even have the final version of this yet, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. So when we have the final version, we'll share that with everyone and then discuss, at which point it needs to be an action item and move forward from there.